Captain Maya Rust Bucket Rodriguez pulled her ancient human warship, the Persistence, into the docking bay of the Galactic Defense Academy with all the grace of a drunk rhinoceros attempting ballet. The ship's hull, patched with what appeared to be duct tape and prayers, groaned against the magnetic clamps like an old man getting out of bed. Around her, sleek alien vessels hummed with barely contained energy. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts pulsed with crystalline light, their hulls so smooth they looked like they'd been carved from single gems by obsessive-compulsive angels. The Klaxon swarm ships moved in perfect synchronization, their bioorganic surfaces rippling like liquid mercury, having a really good day. And the Nexari Republic's fleet? Well, their ships looked like someone had asked a mathematician to design the perfect killing machine, and then given him unlimited funding and a serious caffeine addiction. Then there was Maya's ship. The Persistence looked like it had been assembled in someone's garage by a committee of well-meaning alcoholics using parts salvaged from a junkyard that specialized in vintage military hardware, which coincidentally was exactly how it had been built. "Is that thing even space-worthy?" asked Commander Vexli of the Zephyrian Empire, his four eyes blinking in what Maya had learned was either confusion or impending nausea. Hard to tell with Zephyrians. "Space-worthy?" Maya grinned, popping open a hatch that released a small cloud of what looked suspiciously like barbecue smoke. "Buddy, this baby has been to more star systems than your great-grandmother's dentures. She just likes to take her time about it." The assembled alien cadets and instructors exchanged glances that clearly communicated their shared opinion. Humans were either completely insane or operating on a level of stupidity that had somehow achieved sentience and learned to pilot spacecraft. Maya began unloading her equipment, which only reinforced their theory. Where other species brought sleek energy weapons and quantum field generators, Maya wheeled out what appeared to be a modified microwave oven attached to a shopping cart. "What in the name of the cosmic void is that?" demanded Professor Klektar, the Academy's chief weapons instructor. "Oh, this." Maya patted the contraption affectionately. "This is Bertha. She's a railgun. Well, technically she's a magnetized mass driver cobbled together from kitchen appliances and powered by a fusion reactor I may or may not have borrowed from a decommissioned garbage scow." She continued unloading, revealing an arsenal that looked like it had been assembled by raiding the bargain bin at Weapons R Us during a going-out-of-business sale. There was something that might have been a torpedo launcher if you squinted and had recently suffered a severe head injury. A targeting computer that still had property of Earth Defense Force, do not remove stickers on it. And what appeared to be an entire crate of ammunition that rattled when she moved it. "Those are kinetic projectiles," observed Nexari Sub-Commander Theta 97 with the tone of someone identifying a particularly unpleasant form of ancient torture device. "Yep," Maya said cheerfully, cracking open the crate to reveal what looked like oversized ball bearings mixed with what were definitely repurposed lawn darts. "Nothing fancy. They go fast, they hit hard, and they don't require a degree in theoretical physics to operate. My great-great-grandfather used to say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it is broke, hit it with a bigger hammer." The aliens continued to stare as Maya began loading her weapons with the casual efficiency of someone who had clearly done this far too many times before. Her movements had the practiced rhythm of a short-order cook during the lunch rush, if short-order cooks specialized in instruments of mass destruction. "Primitive kinetic weapons," muttered High Admiral Zork Lawn of the Klaxon Collective, his mandibles clicking in what Maya had learned was either amusement or preparing to lay eggs. "Combustion engines. Chemical propellants. How quaint." "And." Maya looked up from where she was connecting what appeared to be a garden hose to her ship's main weapon system. "Quaint? I prefer to think of it as retro chic, very vintage. All the rage back on Earth." She patted the hull of her ship, which responded with a sound like a garbage disposal trying to eat a brick. "The Persistence here has been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather flew her in the Centauri skirmishes, my father took her through the vegan blockade, and now she's mine. Sure, she's not pretty, but she's got character. Plus she's paid for. Which in this economy is basically a superpower." The opening ceremony of the Galactic Defense Academy's annual war games was the kind of pompous spectacle that made you wonder if the entire galaxy had collectively decided that subtlety was for quitters. Banners fluttered in artificial breezes, Holographic displays showed dramatic footage of previous competitions, and somewhere in the background, a choir of Andromedan monks was humming something that sounded like whale songs having an argument. Commander Vexli of the Zephyrian Empire stepped up to the podium first, his crystal-adorned uniform catching the light and throwing rainbows across the audience like a disco ball with delusions of grandeur. "Hold," he announced, gesturing toward his fleet of dreadnoughts, the pinnacle of Zephyrian engineering. Our ships harness the raw power of crystallized starlight, channeled through focusing arrays that have been perfected over 10,000 years of civilization. Each vessel is capable of turning an asteroid into vapor with a single concentrated burst. The crowd murmured appreciatively. Maya used the distraction to fish a sandwich out of her toolkit. Our technology, Vexli continued, represents the harmony between science and art, where every weapon is both devastatingly effective and aesthetically pleasing. We do not merely destroy our enemies, we do so with style. Light applause rippled through the audience. Maya took a bite of her sandwich, which appeared to be peanut butter and something that might have been jam if you were feeling optimistic about it. Next up was High Admiral Zork Lawn of the Klaxon Collective, whose mandibles clicked in a rhythm that Maya had learned meant either prepare for battle or where's the bathroom. With Klaxons, context was everything. "The collective operates as one mind in many bodies," Zork Lawn announced, his voice carrying the harmonics that indicated the entire Klaxon fleet was speaking in unison. "Our swarm ships move with perfect coordination, each vessel an extension of our collective consciousness. We have eliminated the inefficiencies of individual thought and emotion. Where others see chaos, we see the mathematical perfection of the hive." His fleet demonstrated by performing a complex aerial maneuver that looked like synchronized swimming if synchronized swimming involved heavily armed spacecraft, and the potential for galactic incidents. "Impressive," Maya muttered through her sandwich. "Bet they're fun at parties." Finally, Nexari Sub-Commander Theta 97 approached the podium with the precise movements of someone who had calculated the optimal walking speed for maximum efficiency. The Nexari Republic's ships hung in formation behind him, their hulls covered in sensors and weapons that had been arranged according to what Maya assumed was some very complicated math. The Nexari Republic has achieved perfection through the application of pure logic and scientific method, Theta 97 announced in a voice that sounded like a computer reading a tax form. "Every angle of our hull design has been calculated for optimal performance. Every weapon placement has been determined through battlefield analysis spanning 300,000 simulated combat scenarios. We have eliminated variables, randomness, and uncertainty. Victory is not hoped for. It is mathematically inevitable." The applause was more respectful than enthusiastic, which seemed to be exactly what Theta 97 had calculated it would be. And now Professor Klick-Tar announced, consulting his holographic notes, representing the Terran Defense Coalition, Captain Maya Rodriguez and he squinted at his display. "The persistence." Maya stood up, brushing sandwich crumbs off her uniform, which looked like it had been ordered from a catalog called Military Surplus and More sometime during the previous century. "Thanks, Professor," she said, walking up to the podium with the casual confidence of someone who either had everything completely under control or had given up caring about the difference. "I'm Maya Rodriguez, and this is my ship." She gestured toward the Persistence, which chose that exact moment to emit a sound like a dying walrus. "She's not much to look at. I'll give you that. Built in 2157, using what we call the throw stuff at the wall, and see what sticks method of engineering. She's got kinetic weapons that fire chunks of metal really, really fast. Armor plating that's literally just thick metal with some prayers painted on it, and a propulsion system that runs on controlled explosions." The alien audience shifted uncomfortably. Maya continued cheerfully. "Now, I know what you're all thinking. Maya, that sounds incredibly primitive and inefficient. And you're absolutely right. It is primitive. It is inefficient. But you know what it's also made for. And speaking of which, does anyone have a bottle opener? Because my backup weapon systems are still sealed in their original Earth packaging from 2157, and apparently our ancestors really believed in making sure their military hardware stayed fresh." The silence that followed was the kind usually reserved for moments when someone has either said something profoundly wise or profoundly stupid, and nobody was quite sure which one it was. The war games officially commenced with all the ceremony of a particularly elaborate funeral, complete with formal declarations, ceremonial weapon charges, and a reading of the rules that went on longer than most parliamentary sessions. The engagement zone covers 17 star systems. Professor Klicktar announced through the fleet-wide communications array. Victory conditions include territorial control, resource acquisition, and tactical superiority. All weapons are set to training mode, all shields calibrated to simulation parameters. This is a test of skill, strategy, and advanced military doctrine. Maya's response was to immediately fire up her ship's waste disposal system and launch what appeared to be the contents of her ship's garbage compactor directly at the Nexari formation. What the hell was that? Demanded Theta 97 as his perfectly calculated sensor arrays tried to process what looked like last week's leftovers moving at 3,000 kilometers per second. Chaff, Maya replied cheerfully over the open channel. Also, I think there might be some expired ration packs in there. Sorry about that. The Nexari ships, designed for mathematical perfection, had no protocols for dealing with incoming space garbage. Their targeting systems locked onto a particularly large chunk of what might have been meatloaf and calculated 17 different intercept vectors before realizing they were trying to shoot down someone's lunch. Meanwhile, Maya had somehow managed to turn her ship's outdated radar jamming system into a galaxy-wide broadcast of something called Never Gonna Give You Up by an ancient Earth musician named Rick Astley. What is that noise? Commander Vexlai's voice crackled over the comm, his crystalline calm shattered by what humans had apparently weaponized as the Rick roll. Oh, that's just a little psychological warfare, Maya explained, banking her ship through an field with the casual ease of someone parallel parking a grocery cart. My great-grandmother always said that if you're going to fight somebody, you might as well make sure they remember it. Professor Klicktar's voice cut through the chaos. Captain Rodriguez, please cease your audio bombardment immediately. We're receiving complaints from 14 different star systems about your, musical choices. Can't do that, Professor Maya replied, launching another salvo of what appeared to be repurposed kitchen appliances at the Klaxon swarm ships. My comms array is kind of janky. It's either Rick Astley or the audio track from my nephew's kindergarten play about the food pyramid. Trust me, you don't want the food pyramid. The war games, which had been carefully designed to showcase advanced tactical doctrine and sophisticated military technology, had devolved into what historians would later describe as the most elaborate practical joke in galactic history. The referees, a collection of species from neutral worlds who had volunteered to oversee the competition, found themselves frantically adding new rules to the engagement protocols. New rule, announced referee Prime Gorlak over the fleet-wide channel. No projectiles consisting primarily of organic waste matter. Maya immediately switched to firing what appeared to be oversized ball bearings, each one inscribed with messages like "Have a nice day" and "Courtesy of Earth Defense Force." New rule, Gorlak continued, his tentacles writhing in what Maya had learned was either frustration or trying to perform complex calculations. No musical bombardment of non-combatant systems. Maya turned off the Rick roll but somehow managed to replace it with what sounded like elevator music, if elevators played death metal. New rule, Gorlak said, his voice reaching the pitch usually reserved for beings having nervous breakdowns. No improvised. What are you even doing over there? Maya had apparently turned her ship's external maintenance arms into an impromptu weapon system, grabbing chunks of space debris and flinging them at her opponents like a cosmic food fight. I'm innovating, Maya replied cheerfully. You said this was a test of advanced military doctrine. Well, back on Earth we have a saying, adapt, improvise, overcome. Also, when in doubt, throw something heavy. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts, with their perfect crystalline weapon arrays, found themselves trying to target projectiles that registered as miscellaneous space junk on their sensors. Their targeting computers, designed to track sophisticated energy signatures and advanced propulsion systems, that kept losing lock on objects that moved like they were being thrown by an angry gorilla. The Klaxon Collective, operating as one perfect hive mind, discovered that their synchronized thinking became a liability when Maya started doing things that made no tactical sense whatsoever. They would calculate her next move based on logical military doctrine, only to watch her do something that violated every principle of strategic thinking they had ever encountered. And the Nexari Republic, with their mathematically perfect formations and precisely calculated maneuvers, found themselves facing an enemy who apparently operated on a level of randomness that their computers couldn't process. "This is not how military engagements are supposed to function," Theta 97 announced, but his voice carrying the strain of someone whose worldview was actively being demolished by a woman with a garbage disposal and a really bad attitude. "Yeah, well," Maya replied, somehow managing to use her ship's docking clamp as an improvised grappling hook. Nobody told the universe that. 3 hours into the war games, the carefully orchestrated military exercise had transformed into something that resembled a physics experiment conducted by caffeinated madmen. Maya's unconventional tactics weren't just breaking the rules, they were demonstrating that the rules had some serious design flaws. The first major revelation came when Commander Vexli's crystal-powered dreadnought fired a concentrated beam of starlight directly at the Persistence, only to watch it bounce harmlessly off Maya's hull. "Impossible," Vexli muttered, running diagnostics on his weapon systems. "That beam should have vaporized your primitive armor plating." "Oh, that," Maya said, dodging a swarm of Klaxon bio ships with a maneuver that looked like a drunk pilot trying to parallel park in 3 dimensions. "Yeah, my armor isn't actually that primitive. It's just really, really thick metal. Like, stupidly thick. My great-grandfather believed in the more metal equals more better school of engineering." What Vexli's sensors couldn't detect was that Maya's primitive armor had been specifically designed to absorb and dissipate energy weapons. While advanced civilizations had moved to sophisticated shield technologies, humans had stuck with the time-tested principle of, if it ain't broke, make it thicker. The Klaxon Collective was discovering their own problems. Their swarm ships, designed to operate in perfect coordination, found themselves trying to track a target that moved like it was actively trying to give physics a nervous breakdown. "Target trajectory analysis is impossible," reported the collective in unison, their harmonic voices carrying undertones of what Maya recognized as impending mechanical madness. "Vessel movement patterns suggest either severe propulsion malfunction or deliberate tactical insanity." "Little bit of both," Maya confirmed, using her ship's waste heat vents to create a cloud of superheated gas that played havoc with the bioship's thermal sensors. "The Persistence has what we call personality quirks. Sometimes she goes left when I tell her to go right. Sometimes she decides to do a barrel roll just because she feels like it. Keeps things interesting." The truth was that Maya's ancient propulsion system, with its chemical rockets and combustion engines, produced a sensor signature so chaotic and unpredictable that it couldn't be tracked by computers designed to predict the movement of sophisticated ion drives and gravity manipulators. Meanwhile, the Nexari Republic was learning that their mathematical perfection had a critical weakness. It assumed their opponents would behave rationally. "Sub-Commander," reported Nexari Tactical Unit Epsilon 41, "the human vessel has just launched what appears to be a kitchen sink." Theta 97's precise calculations ground to a halt. "Specify. Define kitchen sink in tactical context." "Literal kitchen sink, Sub-Commander. Porcelain construction. Appears to include plumbing fixtures. Currently on trajectory to impact our formation in 17.3 seconds. Successive maneuvers," Theta 97 ordered, his voice cracking slightly. "Calculate intercept vectors for plumbing." The Nexari ships scattered in perfect mathematical formation, only to discover that Maya had somehow managed to turn her kitchen sink into a cluster munition. It separated into individual components: faucets, drain pipes, soap dispensers, each piece spinning through space like the galaxy's most domestic meteor shower. "How is any of this tactically sound?" demanded Theta 97. "It's not," Maya replied cheerfully, somehow managing to use her ship's external communications array as an improvised weapon by broadcasting really loud static directly at the Nexari sensors. "That's the point. You guys are all playing chess while I'm playing Calvin Ball." "What is Calvin Ball?" "It's a game where you make up the rules as you go along, and the only permanent rule is that you can't play it the same way twice." Maya's outdated stealth systems were proving equally problematic for her opponents. While modern stealth technology relied on sophisticated energy dampening and quantum field manipulation, Maya's ship achieved invisibility through the simple expedient of being so old and beat up that sensors kept classifying it as space debris. "I'm losing target lock," reported a Zephyrian gunner. "The human vessel keeps disappearing from our sensors." "It's right there," Vexli pointed out, staring directly at the Persistence as it lumbered through space like a flying junkyard. We can see it with our actual eyes. Yes, but our targeting computers insist it's a derelict garbage scow from the Epsilon sector. So target the garbage scow, sir. Regulations clearly state that we cannot fire upon civilian waste management vessels. Maya, meanwhile, had discovered that her opponent's perfect coordination was actually a tactical liability. The Zephyrian ships moved in formation so precise that they couldn't adapt when Maya started doing things like flying backwards while spinning, or using her ship's mechanical arms to literally knock on their hulls, like she was asking to borrow a cup of sugar. The Klaxon Collective's hive mind advantage became a disadvantage when Maya introduced the concept of organized chaos to their perfectly synchronized thinking. She would start a maneuver that made tactical sense, lure the swarm ships into responding with their calculated counter moves, then suddenly switch to doing something completely different that left the entire collective trying to process what was essentially military slapstick comedy. And the Nexari Republic's mathematical precision became a weakness when Maya started introducing variables that their computers literally couldn't calculate. Like, what if I attach fuzzy dice to my missile guidance systems, or what happens if I use my garbage disposal as a weapon? This is not warfare, Theta 97 announced over the open channel. This is some kind of elaborate performance art. Hey, Maya replied, somehow managing to use her ship's docking tube to literally tap one of the Nexari vessels on what might have been its shoulder. You guys are the ones who said this was supposed to showcase advanced military doctrine. I'm just showing you ours. By hour 6 of the war games, the alien fleets had begun to realize they weren't dealing with primitive technology operated by primitive minds. They were facing something far more dangerous, weaponized human stubbornness combined with engineering that had been specifically designed to irritate sophisticated opponents. Analysis complete, reported Zephyrian Chief Science Officer Melkar to Commander Vex Lai. The human vessel's apparent primitiveness is deliberate. Their kinetic weapons are specifically calibrated to penetrate energy dispersal shields. Their chaotic movement patterns are generated by a propulsion system that operates on controlled randomness. And their armor plating has been deliberately designed to look crude while actually being more effective than our crystalline matrix shielding. Vex Lai's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, which Maya had learned was either deep thought or impending apoplexy. You're saying they made their ship look stupid on purpose? Not stupid, sir. Underestimated. The realization hit the alien commanders with all the subtlety of Maya's latest projectile, which appeared to be a modified exercise bike that was somehow spinning through space while playing what sounded like a mariachi version of the galactic anthem. Attention all vessels. Maya's voice crackled over the communications array with the cheerful tone of someone who was enjoying herself far too much. I'd like to take this opportunity to point out that the current kill count stands at Zephyrians, 0, Klaxons, 0, Nexari, 0, and humans. Well, I've lost count. But my targeting computer is having a lot of fun keeping score. Indeed, the kill count display on Maya's ship had started arranging the names of destroyed vessels into increasingly creative patterns. The latest arrangement spelled out try harder using the designations of 17 different alien ships. But how is she doing that? Demanded High Admiral Zork Lawn as his swarm ships tried to avoid what appeared to be a shower of modified kitchen utensils, each one somehow programmed to seek out specific Klaxon biosignatures. Analysis suggests, his tactical coordinator reported, that the human has been deliberately targeting our vessels in a specific sequence to create patterns with their identification codes. She's been planning this? For approximately 4 hours, Admiral. She appears to be treating the engagement as a form of 3-dimensional typography. Maya's voice came over the comm again, now accompanied by what sounded like she was eating something crunchy. Oh, and Zorklon, you might want to check your formation. I think you're about to spell out something embarrassing. The Klaxon Admiral looked at his tactical display and discovered that his perfectly coordinated swarm had been maneuvered into a formation that, when viewed from above, clearly spelled out buzz off in standard galactic script. Meanwhile, Nexari Sub-Commander Theta 97 was having what his species called a logic cascade failure. As he tried to process Maya's latest tactical innovation, that she had somehow managed to hack into the war game's automated referee system and was now providing helpful commentary on her opponent's performance. Nexari Formation Gamma 7 Delta. Maya's voice announced over the fleet-wide channel, you might want to consider that your mathematical perfection has a critical flaw. It assumes your enemy is also trying to be mathematically perfect. Also, your ship designation Alpha Prime 7 is showing as damaged on my sensors. But I haven't actually shot at you yet, so you might want to check your maintenance protocols. Theta 97 ran a diagnostic and discovered that Alpha Prime 7 did indeed have a minor hull breach that their sensors had somehow missed. How did she know that? He demanded. Analysis suggests. His tactical officer reported with the mechanical voice of someone whose worldview was actively being disassembled, that the human has been using her primitive sensors to perform detailed analysis of our fleet composition, maintenance status, and tactical capabilities while simultaneously engaging us in combat. She's been multitasking? Extensively, Sub-Commander. Maya's cheerful voice cut through their conversation. Also, Theta 97, you might want to tell your gunner on ship Delta 4 Prime that his targeting computer has been locked onto his own formation for the last 20 minutes. I'm not sure if that's intentional or if you guys are planning some kind of elaborate suicide maneuver, but either way, it's making me nervous. The Nexari checked their systems and discovered that, yes, Delta 4 Prime had indeed been preparing to fire on their own ships due to a targeting glitch that their perfect mathematical coordination had somehow failed to detect. This is impossible, Vexli muttered as his sensors tried to track Maya's ship through what appeared to be a debris field of her own creation. How is she maintaining tactical awareness of 3 separate fleets while simultaneously engaging all of us in combat? Sir. Mess. His sensor operator reported. Analysis of the human's communication patterns suggests she's not just maintaining awareness. She's actively managing the entire engagement. Every seemingly random maneuver has been calculated to force us into specific positions. Every piece of space junk she's launched has been precisely targeted to create maximum tactical disruption. You're saying she's been controlling this entire battle? Not controlling, sir. Conducting. Like a symphony, but with more explosions and significantly worse music. As if on cue, Maya's latest audio broadcast filled the comm channels with what sounded like a polka version of an ancient Earth song called The Devil Went Down to Georgia, performed by what might have been a choir of caffeinated robots. Attention, alien fleets. Maya announced over the cacophony. I'm going to let you in on a little secret of human military doctrine. We don't win battles by being smarter or faster or more advanced than our enemies. We win by being so completely unpredictable that you can't figure out what we're going to do next until we've already done it twice and moved on to something even weirder. Also, we really like to show off. The war games officially ended when Maya's kill count display arranged the names of the remaining alien vessels to spell out game over. Insert coin to continue while simultaneously broadcasting what appeared to be the victory theme from an ancient Earth video game. Professor Klicktar's voice crackled over the communications array with the weary tone of someone who had just watched everything he thought he knew about military tactics get fed now through a blender operated by a caffeinated comedian. Attention all vessels, he announced. The war games are concluded. Final results. Terran Defense Coalition, 147 confirmed kills. Zephyrian Empire, 0 kills. Klaxon Collective, 0 kills. Nexari Republic, 0 kills. He paused, and Maya could practically hear him questioning his life choices. Additionally, Klicktar continued, Captain Rodriguez has somehow managed to spell out the complete text of what appears to be an ancient Earth recipe for something called banana bread, using the debris patterns from destroyed training drones, so we're going to call that a bonus achievement. Maya's cheerful voice filled the comm channels. Thanks, Professor. My great-aunt Dolores always said her banana bread recipe was explosive. Turns out she was more right than she knew. The alien fleets hung in space like guests at a party where someone had just performed a magic trick that violated several laws of physics and at least one social convention. The silence was broken only by the sound of Maya apparently rummaging through what sounded like a kitchen. Attention everyone, Maya announced. I'm firing up the barbecue to celebrate. Anyone who wants to stick around for space burgers is welcome. I've got plenty of fuel. And by fuel, I mean I'm using my ship's plasma vents as a grill. Don't worry, it's perfectly safe. Probably. Commander Vexli was the first to break. Captain Rodriguez, he said. His voice carrying the tone of someone whose carefully constructed worldview had just been demolished by a woman with a garbage disposal and an attitude. I must ask, Was any of that actually primitive human technology? Oh, absolutely, Maya replied cheerfully. Every single system on this ship is genuinely primitive by your standards. The difference is we've had a couple hundred years to figure out how to make primitive technology really, really annoying to fight against. She paused, and they could hear what sounded like her flipping burgers on a makeshift grill. See, the thing about humans is that we're basically the galaxy's ultimate underdogs. We don't have crystal-powered superweapons or hive-mind coordination or mathematical perfection. What we have is stubbornness, creativity, and a pathological inability to leave well enough alone. High Admiral Zork Lawn's mandibles clicked in what Maya had learned was either curiosity or preparing to molt. Explain. Well, take my targeting computer, Maya said, the smell of cooking meat somehow making its way through the ship-to-ship communications system. It's a genuine antique, built in 2157 using technology that was already obsolete when it was new. But you know what? It's had 200 years of updates, patches, and modifications by 3 generations of Rodriguez family engineers who were all absolutely convinced they could make it better. The sound of sizzling continued over the comm. My great-grandfather added the ability to calculate trajectory based on what he called Kentucky windage. My grandfather installed a subroutine that could predict enemy movement patterns based on their species' psychological profiles. My father gave it the ability to compose insulting messages, using enemy ship designations. And me? I taught it how to play tic-tac-toe. Tic-tac-toe? Theta 97's voice cracked slightly. Yeah, but here's the thing about tic-tac-toe. It's a simple game, right? Except when you're playing it on a 3-dimensional battlefield using starships as game pieces. Turns out, most alien military formations follow patterns that are surprisingly similar to optimal tic-tac-toe strategies. Who knew? Maya's voice took on the tone of someone sharing a favorite family recipe. The secret to human military success isn't that we're better than everyone else. It's that we're too stubborn to admit when we're outclassed, too creative to stick to conventional tactics, and too cheap to throw away anything that still works. We take your cast-offs, your obsolete technology, your primitive weapons, and we turn them into something that'll give your advanced civilizations nightmares. She paused to take a bite of what sounded like a really good burger. Plus, she added, we've got a sense of humor about the whole thing. Half the reason I won today wasn't because my ship is better than yours. It's because you guys were so busy being impressed with your own technological superiority that you forgot the most important rule of warfare. Never underestimate an opponent who's having more fun than you are. The comm channels fell silent except for the continued sounds of Maya's impromptu barbecue. Finally, Commander Vexli spoke up. Captain Rodriguez, he said, his voice carrying a note of something that might have been respect. Would you be interested in teaching a course at the Academy? What kind of course? We're thinking of calling it Advanced Primitive Tactics, or maybe how to win by cheating without actually cheating. Maya's laughter filled the communication channels like the sound of someone who had just discovered that the universe had an excellent sense of humor. Professor, she said, I thought you'd never ask. But I've got one condition. I get to bring my own teaching materials. What kind of teaching materials? Well, Maya replied, the grin audible in her voice, I've got this really interesting collection of kitchen appliances that I've been meaning to turn into weapons. Should be educational. The silence that followed was the kind that usually preceded either very good decisions or very, very bad ones. In this case, it would turn out to be both.